Welcome to Thrivers Ed, the podcast that's all about giving you the practical, no-nonsense advice you need to level up your life and business. I'm your host, Marcy Rossi, success coach, business strategist, and alcohol-free enthusiast. If you're ready to crush your goals, optimize your productivity, and live your best, most authentic life, then you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into topics like the psychology of success, practical strategies to boost your performance, and the unexpected ways living alcohol-free can elevate your life. Whether you're looking to boost your business, improve your health, or simply become a better version of yourself, Thrivers Ed is here to help you do just that. So grab your iced coffee, buckle up, and let's get thriving. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Thrivers Ed. Today, I have a guest with me, Ivana Ivanek. Ivana is a keynote speaker, a mindset coach, a business strategist, and the host of the Online Business by Design podcast. She helps coaches, teachers, and educators build an online business that makes money and impact. Through more than a decade of observing and connecting with people, she's discovered a powerful truth that we are going to dive into today, and that is fear of societal rejection and judgment is the hidden reason that most of us are holding ourselves back from building strong personal brands. Now, coming from a background where entrepreneurship wasn't an option, Ivana is now on a mission to teach how to stop playing small with your potential and really achieve anything. Ivana, welcome to the show.
Beautiful day, Marcy. I'm so stoked for this conversation.
I am too. I think it's so important. I know you talk about the transformation industry, and I think really the baseline of that is personal branding. And that's why I think this conversation is so important. And I'm so glad to have your expertise. But before we dive in on this, I really want to talk about this aspect of how entrepreneurship wasn't an option growing up for you. What exactly does that mean? Tell me more.
Well, I needed options. I needed options that were going beyond the known corporate ladder that I was supposed to be climbing because I wanted to live a totally different lifestyle than anybody else around me. I grew up in a working class immigrant family. My family moved from Serbia to Austria in 1991, shortly before the Yugoslavia war. So I can't really say that my parents grew up in communism times, but there was so much of these times from the old Soviet Union and old Yugoslavia sparkling in their lifestyle. So my parents did have opportunities on paper, but then not really. Growing up in Serbia and then coming with me as a toddler, my sister and a baby to Austria, the only opportunity that was there was to go to school, go to university, and climb the corporate ladder. And it was a huge dream of my parents to make that possible for us. And I can tell you now in retrospect, looking at what they have done, how much they worked as immigrants in a foreign country with them. My brother was born as well in 92 with 3 children. It was immense. It was an immense effort to keep us safe, stable, so we have education and everything we need to grow up. I was meant to be a doctor, Marcy, believe it or not. I'm happy I didn't. So that's what I did. I mean, I was grateful to grow up in Vienna, in Austria, in Europe. Education was for free. You pay, it was a $350 fee per semester. Like if I tell these people in the US, nobody really believes me, but you can study for free. You get education for free. It was a safe, stable city. So that's actually when my parents say, yeah, that's it. This is where doctors and lawyers are born. But somehow I never felt aligned with it, but I didn't see options as well because this is what I was taught to do. However, I personally wanted to live by the ocean, travel the world, do meaningful work as someone who helps people not knowing what it could have been at a time and become famous. So now, this is what sounds like such a big dream of a little girl. This dream literally stuck with me for my entire life. So I did go to university. I did climb the corporate ladder, but for whatever reason, I was always declining anything I got, more money, a better position, because I didn't see the point in working harder for a little bit more money in a job that stifled me. The truth was that I started to see options, possibilities that could make that lifestyle I was dreaming about, making it possible. But what will people think of me if I do that? It was so important for my family as well. This is how I grew up. It is important what people think of you. It was on one hand a societal pressure on my parents. when they moved countries. So we were seen in Serbia, our entire family. At that time, my grandparents were alive. Like we kind of made it. Nobody knew how much money my parents were making. Nobody knew about the struggles. But on the big picture, my parents needed to live up to that image of they made it, they make the money, they're successful, they have successful children, etc., etc. So me starting a business, dropping out of university, literally quitting corporate, like dropping all the safety I had and aiming to leave to an island, to live by the ocean, was a disaster. And I felt guilty for that. I felt guilty pursuing it. I felt guilty for a decade of talking about it. I felt so guilty because I always thought there was somebody working so hard for you. There was someone wanting you good, and all of that you don't want. And it's not that I didn't want it. I enjoyed my life in Vienna. I had stability. I had a job, but getting up at 7 a.m. to go to the office at 8 a.m. was a nightmare for me as a highly sensitive person. And today I'm living up to that whole kind of statement I always say. I love making bank from the comfort of my own home with no proper pants on, and I'm not leaving the house before 12 a.m. because I don't have to. But entrepreneurship was not an option really for a long time till I did it. And the problem was that I did it to prove that I can do it. I did it to prove to my family that I can be successful. I can build my business and I can live the life on my own terms. That was the times in Vienna, in my early 20s. Dropped out of corporate, made a huge debt to start an education, and I started my first business as a mindset and health coach. So the world would have cheered if I would have gone in debt to buy a house and buy a car and build a family. But, quitting a stable job was considered risky, naive, and silly. And me putting my energy in wrong spaces to convince others of my purpose and what I wanted to do made me fail. Like I didn't ask for help because I had to pretend that everything is all right because what gonna people think of me? I had to pretend that I had no issues. I wasn't even connecting with like-minded people because entrepreneurship was so new to me that I didn't think that there is anybody out there having the same struggles as I do. Honestly, I was that naive. I didn't know that there are other coaches, other trainers, doing the things I was doing. I had no idea about marketing. I thought, because I just go somewhere, the world will come to me because I'm good, which I was, but being good is not enough to stand out on the market. And it took only 4 years later, 4 years before I, hit rock bottom mentally, physically, financially. And I found myself back living my worst case scenario back in corporate. And from there, my comeback journey started, which we will talk about probably in a moment.
I love aspects of your story. I think there's something really powerful underlying all of this, and that is that you took a chance on yourself, right? So you've had all of these pressures to kind of fulfill the family dream to, you've been given all of these opportunities that other people past generations have not had. You had them, and you, for lack of a better phrase, kind of threw them away to pursue this other opportunity, right? You had this safe option and you decided to go with what wasn't safe. And as a result, you mentioned kind of feeling this guilt of like, who am I to do this? Some of this imposter syndrome. Like, how did you make that decision? How were you able to summon the strength or the courage or the whatever to choose this, right? How did you step out? It feels like it was I was sensing some kind of discomfort there of not living up to those expectations. So what was it that led you to do it anyway?
You probably heard this, and everybody will agree with me that we only start taking action when it gets really uncomfortable. Not when we have the first spark, not the first idea, the first move we feel within. We only start taking action when we reach a limit of, I cannot anymore. I have to do it. That moment when you are unfulfilled, unhappy. I saw my life really going down the drain because I was sitting in the morning. I smoked at the time, and I literally smoked my coffee cup away. I made an extra big coffee, like an amount I couldn't even drink, and smoked cigarettes as long as the coffee lasted, which meant for me, as long as I'm doing that, I don't have to go to this job because this is my morning routine. Like you hear that self-sabotaging thought behind it and what I have done to myself in order to cope with my life, with my day. I was going to this job, being good at my job, but feeling like I was kept in a cage by my contract, obviously, limited in my creativity. I saw the problems, was not allowed to solve them. I was not allowed even to speak about it because I had work to do. This is what I was doing. This is what I was paid for. If I wanted to do more, I wasn't paid for it because everything was limited to that contract. I saw people being surrounded by people who are experiencing the same, like 80% of them, but complaining instead of taking action, which was draining. I didn't see the value going drinking after work because just everybody did it. I wanted to do sports. I wanted to do cool stuff. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have a healthy lifestyle. But all I was hustling, doing to do what in the end? It was such a emptiness that I felt within that one day I woke up and being like, this is making me sick. I'm going. And I am a person, and I'm practicing this even more and more as I'm getting older. If I have decisions to make, big decisions that are concerning my life, where others are definitely not harmed, meaning I'm not taking away anyone's money, I am not making decisions for someone else's life that might impact someone's life drastically, I usually don't speak about it. I go inward. I think through my worst case scenario, what can happen if everything goes south? To realize that the worst case scenario is actually not that bad because it's just a new foundation for comeback that I will live and survive, even if I don't like it at the moment. And then I try to make the decision, seeing it that no matter the decision I make, it is a consequence. And the moment we can see consequences as neutral, it's not bad, it's not good, because we have to make a decision at some point. When you stand on the crossroad, there is left or right. No one can give you the guarantee that it's going to be great. Each decision is going to have consequences. And the next question is, can I live with those consequences? And if it's a yes, I usually move on from there. I'm not having conversations with people who don't understand my vision. I'm not having conversations with people to seek validation. And I didn't have this at the time. I didn't know I was that good already. I was just, thinking to myself, you're the craziest person I ever met, Ivana. Like everybody goes, talks to friends. Everybody goes, talks to family. Well, family wasn't the support for me. Friends didn't understand me. So I was alone and I had to learn this to be like, do you want it? Go for it. So now having this put in a practice into something that I have written on paper and teach others 10 years later, 15 years later, yes. But back in the days, it was just this crazy girl doing things nobody could relate to. And so I did. I left corporate and I took the money and I did an education, which I never regretted because although I have failed, what this has taught me is that failure is not the end of your dream. And it has taught me that I do have the capacity, like everybody else listening, that if you fail, you are just setting yourself up for new creativity, new strategy, new hope. And it's literally not the end of you or whatever you have to do. You just might have to take a different path, which I did. Finding myself in a worst case scenario, going back to corporate. I took a job that just paid enough to pay my bills, to pay my debt and the psychologist I needed at the time. And I found myself in a very lucky position working with someone who has grown a company from 35 employees to 300 within 3 years. And I've seen it all. Been there. I've been observing the processes. And at some point came the next move and be like, you know what? I'm really done with this now. And I did the same process again of sitting alone with my discomfort, making the decisions in quiet, seeing what's good for me before I started informing people and not seeking validation. And I moved to Greece, 2018. I left my home country. I made this ocean thing a thing because I saw a possibility. Quit again that job. I saw the possibility. I had a ticket out in another completely different industry, in tourism, in the diving industry. One of the probably most exhausting jobs I ever had, but it allowed me to look in every department I was generating 80% of all sales from that company. Online, offline, I was running internship programs. I was looking into things that I truly needed later. And then as I moved forward, I grew into that person I really needed to be. I was really doubling down on self-development and starting to ask people for, advice who are there where I want to be, which was very new to me to do that and very vulnerable. But I did. And at some point, it was in 2021 when I said, okay, now I know. And I put all my knowledge together. I got help to translate my skill sets over the entire years and put it into something really tangible that I said, yes, this is what I want to teach people. This is what humanity needs, and seeing also the economic developments and how the industry, the transformation industry and the digital space is evolving. I started looking at economy. I started learning how to be really strategic about things. And what happened is I quit that job again overnight. I don't recommend to do this anyone because it comes with stress. It comes with pressure, with money pressure, needing to make money, etc. But unless you can deal with it and you have the tools to know how, and you know it's not going to kill you and cause you sleepless nights, then yes. Other than that, there are so many other ways you can do this without putting yourself under constant pressure and risk. But I did it anyway, and it only took me a month till I was making money again. And then I knew, here we are, and I never looked back.
I just really admire you. I hear so many different opportunities for you to kind of take the safe, the expected path, and you do it anyway. You kind of mentioned reflecting internally and deciding, can I live with this? And if the answer is yes, then going ahead and taking that risk. You've mentioned kind of quote unquote failing. I don't often use the word failing because I think these are just opportunities to learn. It's just choosing a different path. But I imagine that there are a lot of people out there that maybe just don't have that self-assurance that you do, that let that fear hold them back a little bit more. And there are a lot of opportunities for fear to hold us back, right? From starting to even choose entrepreneurship. And then you mentioned you kind of had some kind of stumbles along the way in there. And so getting into this kind of personal branding and putting ourselves out there, we have different levels of this fear that I'm talking about, starting entrepreneurship and then continuing to do it, right? Maybe I launch something and that one thing fails, or maybe I put myself out there on social media and people give me mean, nasty comments. Like if someone doesn't have that kind of internal self-determination to say, it's fine, I'm doing it anyway, like that strong ahead, how do they keep showing up time and time again when kind of that fear just really, I think never goes away as an entrepreneur? Maybe you have a different experience, but how do we deal with that kind of unease, fear situation as entrepreneurs?
You know what, Marcy, you're absolutely right. Fear never goes away, even as an entrepreneur, no matter how often you do it, because fear is something essential. It's in our DNAs. We need to have fear. I always say, like, you know what, if humanity wouldn't be experiencing fear, we would see people jumping out of the windows trying to, I don't know, to make experiments. Because if there's no fear, there is also no protection. It's very, very primal. And fear is only trying to protect you from the unknown. The truth is that our brains are so much more developed than, just practicing fight, freeze, or flight mode. So what can someone do? I just want to mention out there that personal branding today, as we are moving from the industrial age into the digital era, and so driven by AI, and it goes so extremely fast and quick. And the transformation industry is not only very competitive, it is a saturated market, but it's also a very sophisticated market. And seeing these developments, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be starting a business in the digital space as a coach, teacher, and educator, because there are already so many competitors out there. Competition means there is a demand. And if there is a demand, there is a need for those people to step in. Believe me, the world is ready for your message and for your work. And we need more of conscious leaders who are guiding us beyond what we think is possible in whatever your work does. Helping people today, navigating the stress of today, may it be politically, health-wise, relationships, and all the things that are happening so rapidly, we need that support today. And there's also opportunity because, again, digital era, we can be connected like globally with people. We can reach buyers beyond borders. That also means that more and more people will be stepping into these businesses. And I recently heard such a great term, which was, they said it's a fancy type of running a small business, coaching, right? The transformation industry, because it comes with a high level of satisfaction. And if done well and you succeed, you get high levels of freedom. It almost sounds like perfection. And everybody wants that. Everybody wants a piece of cake of that, and people will be trying. So competition and saturation is honestly something that is important in order to have the ability to, to see who am I and how can I stand out in this market. This is where personal branding comes in. This is where we need to be visible. We need to speak what we have to say as thought leaders and not sugarcoat our message. We need a message that matters to the world and share our intellectual property across diverse platforms. Now, when people hear that, they're like, who am I to do this? Are gonna people say something, laugh at me, etc.? And I think that fear is legit. The only thing what we can do here is, first of all, do you want to do this work? Because if there is no readiness to get over that threshold, and someone doesn't see the value in social media being your digital business card, if someone doesn't see the value spreading the message in order to be of service of humanity, making this world a better place, then honestly, and I deeply mean it, leave it. There's other things you can do. Being a solopreneur in the transformation industry is not the easiest path you choose. So lean in. We can literally lean into that mess. And then it's skill improvement. Learn how to communicate your message effectively. Get comfortable in front of video, which means don't record a reel, press post, and then run away, but look back at your videos. There's constant improvement. How do I communicate? How I look into camera? And it's just basically building that self-insurance that I can get better in things I haven't done before in my life. Because honestly, it's not the easiest thing to look into camera and do these things we are doing. We didn't learn this in school. There will be subjects in the future, I guarantee you, like my niece today, 10, Gen Alpha, they will learn that at school, but we are the only generation experiencing this transition. And it's the most awkward thing to look into your camera and speak to yourself. Now I'm speaking to you, Marcy, but, recording that reel. And it is about getting comfortable as the person you are, knowing what you want to be known for, and then it's building that skill.
I love that you mentioned kind of the sophisticated and saturated market, because I think a lot of people worry that maybe they're too late to get started. Like the demand is there, but you had said, I'm gonna butcher your phrase, which was really well, basically showing that the demand is there, right? The fact that it's saturated shows that the demand is there. And if we look at other industries, like there are probably restaurants near you, and yet new restaurants open all the time because there's always going to be something slightly different about things, right? If you want a burger, there are a million places you can get a burger, but each one's going to be a little bit different. And it's the same thing with the transformation. You're not selling a burger, you're selling yourself. Really, at the end of the day, the service is the education, the experience that you have. Oh, I had a great question that was coming up there. I know where I was going with this. So you mentioned kind of the getting visible, and I know that I've coached clients through really the competence of how do I show up, how do I put myself out there, and you're like, not only post the video, but then go watch the video. And at least with my discussions, where it really ended was the way you get confident doing this is by doing it, right? I didn't have great advice for here's how you get confident first and then you go post the video. That the confidence comes from actually doing the thing. I think that's just a really important key, that the way you get comfortable doing it is by doing it first, and then the confidence comes from the action. But in there, you had mentioned something about speaking on diverse platforms. So is it your belief or proposition here that people need to be on social media in order to have an effective personal brand?
I would say yes, looking at the future. I don't want to say, I want to say there are people who will never succeed on social media because it's just not their thing. And if you know this deeply, look for other options. If you are just scared to be seen and scared that your third grade cousin might say something, or the friend you didn't talk in 10 years from school might have a different opinion, if that's you, then I would just want to kindly ask you to get over yourself and do it anyway, because the truth is that I can't force anybody on being on social media, but the truth is that social media is now, I think even the term social media is wrong by now. As we're progressing, these are highly developed AI CEO platforms. We don't use hashtags anymore. Every post you write, make sure you have keywords that make you get found and seen. We are no longer chasing vanity matrices, followers, views, etc., because people also don't no longer follow, or unfollow so much quicker and follow somebody else later. But the truth is that if you want to be found, you will be found there. And now to close that whole circle, it's not just clients to be seen for clients, but social media alone is not a visibility strategy that will get your business and your name out there and your personal brand. But it is your digital business card and the foundation, so people know what you are about, what you want to be known for, and the message you are bringing to the world, that opens up doors for collaborations. And this is what I meant, diverse platforms, not only social media platforms, but longer living and long lasting content that is either on guest blogs, traditional media, podcasts, speaking in front of other people's audiences. For example, if somebody doesn't have a big audience yet and wants to teach a masterclass, you need to connect with collaborators. They are not your competitors, but your collaborators, because if you have a personal brand, you can collaborate with people who do the exactly same. You can teach your masterclass in front of their audiences without having to fear that you will take someone's work away, because people will choose you by your values and by your message and by the person you are over the other person, and vice versa. So, and these collaborators, podcast hosts, media, are looking not for expertise, because we have AI today who is a better, faster, and widely correct expert. They are looking for messages and for people who have something to share with the world. And the easiest way to prove that is if someone can click on your social media channel and see quickly what you are about. Being a podcast host myself, like, we don't have the time to look and search for you. And maybe I find you there, maybe I find you there. And what have you done? We don't have the time. I need to see with one click, is this person legit? Can I trust that person? Is this person here for the long run? Do we have something that we can put out there and tell the world that, listen, this is important. This is what you need to know. Do you have a story so you can take my people on a journey and see themselves through your story? And can you make us think differently? Once I can see that this is available quickly and efficiently for me, I say, yes, this person is legit. This is a brand that can make impact. And I know from my peers and from all the research I have done, everyone's looking for that. And today, guest blogging, podcasting, and putting yourself out there, even social media, and telling the people what you want to be known for, it's no longer for the rich, for the privileged, or for people with big networks. It's out there for all of us, because also traditional media is tired of C-suite celebrities. The world is looking for more depth. And it's not only the money, the name, but it is literally the topic that you see differently and that you bring to the table. So this is what I meant across platforms. So yes, if you can be on social media, please go be that creator. There are events out there. You don't have to be a speaker going on stages, but I know there are events out there that say, bold on top, don't apply if you are not a creator. Start now. 2030 is coming soon, and this is how the world sells and buys today. These platforms are being set up for these purposes.
I would agree with a whole lot of that. I actually am not on social media anymore. My business grew 5 times when I stepped away, but I started on social media, right? That was the place that gave me the courage to put my face out there, right? My first post, if you scroll all the way back, they're like these, Canva stock photos with pretty text or whatever. Probably not even pretty text. This was the beginning, right? But I was too afraid to put my face out there. And social media kind of forced me to, especially with Reels taking off. Like, I kind of had to speak to camera and got comfortable with me. I got to the point where I was comfortable speaking my own opinions and actually saying something. And, I tell my clients too that, yeah, it's possible to build a business off social media, but I did it first, one, to kind of build that confidence. And two, like you're saying, people are going to look you up. Right? If people go to my platform right now, I don't have 1 million followers. I have 700 and something followers, but I don't have 7, right? It's not just my mom and her friends that are on there. There are some people, which lends some credibility to the fact that, like, yes, this person does have something to say. She has a consistent message, and other people care enough about it to hit that follow button. So I think having some kind of social presence is really important, or some kind of online presence at the very least. Is it a requirement? I would say no. Are there people out there that have successful transformation businesses that aren't really online? Yes, I know of people. But I think that other option is through word of mouth and through networking and referrals. So either way, you're going to have to take a very active stance in selling your services, which again is serving people, right? You can't help people unless you tell them about what it is that you do. But you have to pick a direction, and it feels really scary to be on social media, but it also feels really really scary to email every single person you know. That's that person from high school or the kid, your childhood best friend and say, here's what I'm doing. Are you interested or do you know anybody is? So either way, you're going to have to take an active stance. You're going to have to promote yourself. And like you're saying, social media is kind of a gift. You don't have to be this super fancy person. It's organic marketing. You get to just talk. And as people are searching for things, they get to find you. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. It is scary, yes, but with everything, it gets easier the more that you do it. And I can align with that argument that it is very important because people are going to search for you. So we need to make sure that they know what it is that you believe and where you're standing. I also
Mhm.
really love your discussion of collaborative marketing, and that's been really successful for me of kind of utilizing different people's audiences. No two people are exactly the same, and no one person can serve all of the needs that are out there. So, yeah, there are probably people out there doing something very similar or almost identical to you, but they're still not you at the end of the day. We have to really lean into who it is that you are. So, really loving this conversation here. I have a question that came to me. Is there any kind of is there an opportunity or a past experience that you've had where you've leaned into your personal brand, really who it is, what you believe, what you think, what makes you unique? Has that backfired for you or your clients in any way?
Once there was a story where I had to literally separate with a good friend who was not happy with me being online and literally asking me the question, who am I to do this? Not understanding the industry. It was in the early years. I wasn't too good. Like it was just the first time I put out my high ticket offer there and started selling it. She probably seen the price and she was like, what the fuck is she doing? Like, who is she to do this? And I sensed that obviously. I asked the specific person a couple of times, say, is there something up? Please talk to me. We are friends since a long time and, we can handle it all. She denied and said, no, all is fine until I received a huge WhatsApp message with all kind of, bad words, calling me a scam, etc. That was tough. It hurt. It stinged. No way. When we receive negative comments, it's not something that we shake off easily, especially if it's somebody close to me. But what I learned from this is that it did not disconnect me from the work I want to do. I highly believe in better wealth distribution globally, especially amongst women. I truly believe that we need more conscious leaders. I truly believe that there are opportunities out there that people have fought relentlessly for our rights that we are not seizing today because we are thinking of these kind of friends that might say something. I also know that not everybody is meant for entrepreneurship, but there are so many people out there feeling that fire, that call, however you want to call it, and are not doing it. And these are the most intentional people who we need today out there. So I never got disconnected from that message. And what this has taught me only is to, you know what, I forgave that person. I didn't go into explanation mode. I said, you know what, we are done as for today, but I'm good with you. You can move on with your life. I'll be fine too. I seeked help to work through this. And this was basically the only moment where I thought, oh my God, maybe I should do something else, but only for a very tiny moment. Getting a no, if you pitch yourself to a podcast, for a media opportunity, for a stage or whatever you do, getting a no, you will get 100 no's before you get a yes. That's absolutely normal. This has nothing to do with judgment or bad judgment or somebody wanting consciously to hurt you or to give an unasked opinion. Like we need to strictly separate that. So if you pitch yourself for a podcast and people say no or not yet, that's legit and that's cool. Move on. It stinks too, but this is just what it is.
I have a similar kind of, actually two similar examples for this, and I think it really helps us solidify that we're here, that kind of reassurance that like, yes, this is what I was meant to do. I've had early on in my business when I was on social media, I had some random stranger comment on a post that I did, calling me I think he called me a lib turd, which is again not a real word, because he was upset that I said that quitting alcohol was the best thing I ever did, and apparently that triggered him, and that said far more about him than it ever said about me. And I think that part of entrepreneurship is very lonely, and reminding us that there are people out there that can support us, and talking about these things with fellow entrepreneurs like, yeah, I've had crazy negative comments too, and I do it anyway, because if I let that random stranger hold me back, my brain goes to the people that I can't serve if I allow this to happen, right? I have a amazing client, and her brand is all about authenticity and really leaning into authenticity and, escaping the societal pressures that are there to fit into these particular molds. And one of our close friends complained about her brand name, which has AF in there, right? In the brand name. And they're like, oh, I don't know if you should do that. That could offend people, whatever. But like, it just reaffirmed that this is the right direction for her because her whole model is authenticity. If she had let it was I think a close friend kind of change who she is, it goes against the entire message she's trying to share with the world, which the world really needs, right? That leaning into who we actually are instead of fitting the mold. So I think, as uncomfortable as these things are, and I can tell you I was actually really upset about that message from this random stranger on the internet because I allowed this to color my opinion. But at the end of the day, I realized that this is just even more important that I get my message out there, that I don't hold myself back because people need it. I don't need this person to hold me down or to lean more into my brand. It just reaffirms that this brand is exactly what's really needed out there. So this has been such a fun conversation. If people are leaning into this, you've talked about so many different things today of leaning into that drive that we have as entrepreneurs, of leaning into who it is that we really are in our personal branding, stepping over the fear. If people are ready to act on this great conversation we had today, what is your Thrive in 5 for us?
So, what do we need to know and what we can do today? I suggest if you are really that person, I just heard this recently saying, I know deep within I am that creator. When I close my eyes, I see myself creating, but then I open my eyes and nothing happens. There is one thing before you start creating on social media, you need absolute clarity. What do you want to be known for? And it is not your offer, it is not what you sell, but think of your values, share them through your story, and give us 2 to 3 aspects of your life. If you now listen to me, I am all about empowerment, and I speak on modern social silencing of the things we shouldn't be doing. I'm teaching people to put themselves out there and not to listen to your third grade cousin opinion and who doesn't understand the industry or your work, but listen to the people who are making bank from their own home with no proper pants on. So this is my message. And I'm speaking about teaching yourself to do hard things, whether you do sports, you're that athlete that gets up every freaking morning at 5 a.m. to get in that run, whether you are learning a new language, whatever you do, teach yourself to do hard things because your brain doesn't know the difference between personal branding, social media, and going out for a run. For your brain, it's the same thing. So this is what I want to be known for. What do you want to be known for? And share your message in your own words. I know it is very hard to be unique today on social media. But before you create, get clear on what you want to be known for. Never go and look for inspiration before you create, because you might get an idea and you might find someone who said exactly the same. Stay away from this. We are not looking for inspiration when we create. And number 3 is go ahead and treat social media as your work. This is what a lot of people suffocate. Looking all day, every day, being available 24/7. Before you go on that app, make a commitment to yourself. What I'm doing, posting, responding to comments, responding to DMs, looking for inspiration, or am I joy scrolling? Separate these things. Social media is your new work and it's going to be our future. Put it in your calendar. No one can sit on social media for 5 hours just saying, try it, it's not nice. And we don't look for inspiration or for anything work related in bed. This is another very important thing. It is like looking for inspiration in the middle of the night and scrolling reels is like wanting to close a deal in your pajamas. It's not working. Set these boundaries. So get clear for what you want to be known for before you create. Learn that skill. And honestly, treat it as work. This is not fun. It will keep you sane and your mental health in peace and healthy. And this is something also nobody is teaching. Everybody is just shouting, go out there, post 5 times a day. Keep it real. We are all human beings.
You know, that rule in there that I heard, that create before you consume, I think that applies to so many things too. I think a lot of people will, that fear of imposter syndrome, they'll download more courses, they keep buying more things, they're binging podcasts, they're doing all things. It's like, no, go do the thing. And then we can iterate and improve over time. Then maybe we can pull some more inspiration, but create first. That's how you really lean into that creator aspect, which is really important to this transformation
There's
industry, as you described it. Love that word.
one last message,
Yeah.
Marcy, just to say that this, how things are so supposed to be done, this Instagram police we have invented doesn't exist, friends. Believe me. There is a certain psychological and from marketing side point of view, what kind of content to create when. But honestly, the how, this is your business, my friend. Give yourself the permission and the freedom to do so.
I love that. Ivana, if people want more from you, if they just, like you are just such a wealth of knowledge. If people want more from you, want to connect with you, where should I send them?
Send them to Instagram. It's straight in my DMs. I'm here for questions. I'm having open conversations with people. If you have a question, ask me. If you want to with me, ask me. There is no wrong or right. Even if we are connected online, we are still these human beings who need these conversations and connection. If you go to my website and you listen to this full conversation and say like, okay, she's my woman, I want to have more, I want to see and explore modalities, how to work with me, go on my website. The first section you see, you can directly book a call with me.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to have a link to your Instagram and your website there in the show notes. Ivana, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Has been my privilege. Thank you so much, Marcy.